Well, hello, everyone. All right, all right. Well, hello, everyone. It's your girl, Gabrielle. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. Let me tell you what this show is about. So, this is the show where we like to have real talk about real things. We like to talk about things in education, empowerment, employment. We like to talk about learning disabilities. We like to talk about health, mental health, all of that mushy gushy stuff, all in the name of education. As this podcast is a production of my company, A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So, of course, I want y'all to learn something as you listen to these episodes. And today is no different. I am curious to see where this conversation will go. And this is a unique topic for, well, I guess not unique to me, but yes, no, I'll explain it. But I'm looking forward to this conversation and I want to see where this goes. So let's get right into it. So today we are going to talk about health, and specifically, the topic is living a plant based lifestyle, right? So I want to know how this is possible and, and just how do you do that? How do you do that? Basically, that is my question. And my guest is going to help me out with that. So let me tell you who my guest is. So my guest today, her name is Dr. Shayla Toombs-Withers, and let me tell you briefly about who she is. She helps women between the ages of 35 and 65 who are challenged by the health trifecta of high blood pressure, pre-diabetes slash diabetes, and high cholesterol, who are looking for non-medication, holistic options to reverse and improve their health conditions sustainably. Fabulous. All right, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring her to the stage.
Hello,
Hi,
hello.
Dr. Toombs Withers. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for having me on your show.
Great, great, great. So I want to know, living a plant-based lifestyle, that's your mission, right?
It
So
is.
I want to know what that's about. So I think I'm just gonna have you dive right in. So please tell us what can we do to live a plant-based lifestyle?
Yeah. So, this has been my mission, and I will tell you, I am plant-based myself and have been plant-based for a number of years. For myself, it started because I had my own health challenges. I had started to develop some pretty debilitating stomach issues, where I would be like doubled over in stomach pain for hours at a time. And this occurred at the time when I was in college, so I didn't have any of the medical training or knowledge or experience that I have now at that time. But I would be having all of this pain, and so I went to see my own doctor, and they did all of the tests, all of the scans, labs, the whole workup. Thankfully, that was all normal, and they couldn't find anything that was contributing to that pain. So then at that time, my primary care doctor sent me to a stomach specialist, a gastroenterologist. And so the gastroenterologist reviewed everything and reviewed my symptoms and said, well, it could be just a food intolerance type of issue. And so he said at that time, he said, let's just try you on an elimination diet where we would have you remove certain foods from your diet that you were eating. And so the first thing that he had me eliminate was dairy products because being African American, there are a lot of us who are lactose intolerant, whether we realize it or not. It is a common condition. And so he did. He had me eliminate dairy products from my diet for just a couple of weeks to start with. And believe it or not, I felt totally different. I felt 100 times better. Didn't get any of that stomach pain that I had been having. It just felt so much better just taking dairy products out of my diet. Now, it wasn't easy because I grew up in the South. I love macaroni and cheese. That was one of my staples. So to remove that from my diet was definitely not easy, but it is something that I did, and I noticed that improvement. So over time, I just began reading more about, how what we eat affects how we feel and affects our health. And then with my medical training, and just began to eat more plant-based myself, as well as tell my patients and clients more about how changing their own diets to a plant-based diet could improve their own health. And so that has led me to what I do now in terms of teaching people how to eat plant-based. Um, and so it's not as challenging as we think. A lot of it is a mindset thing for a lot of us. We may have grown up seeing our plate look like that kind of meat and two sides kind of plate. And so really it's just rethinking of, what a meal has to look like for you. Your meal doesn't have to look like that traditional plate that you may have had growing up. You can just put vegetables on your plate, and you can even eat more vegetables than you probably would previously eat, and you would be able to be full, and you would improve your health in turn. And so that's what it's looked like for me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. So when you say plant-based, one of the questions I asked you in the preliminary interview is, are you referring to being vegetarian or being, well, no, but even vegetarian, there's some dairy products, but are you
Right.
referring to veganism, being a vegan?
Yeah, so like one of the things we talked about. So there are all of these different labels within, I call it the plant-based umbrella. And so that can include, vegetarian, vegan, whole food, plant-based, pescatarian, ovo-lacto vegetarian. And all of these, can mean one thing versus the next. But when I say plant-based, I am more closely talking about veganism. I don't use the term veganism though, because veganism also includes more of a lifestyle. It's more than just what we consume, versus plant based just more so speaks to what we consume and not necessarily those additional factors that come under the veganism umbrella. For instance, someone who practices veganism, they may also choose to not wear leather shoes or not consume honey because it can affect the lives of bees. So it goes far beyond just what we consume. Versus plant based is consuming foods that are made of plants. And plant based also has more of a health connotation than just vegan. I always give the example that I actually know vegans who don't really care much for vegetables, but they will eat foods that are not animal foods. But I mean, let's be real, there are chips that are vegan, there are Oreos that are vegan. So vegan doesn't necessarily mean health. Vegan just means that you're not affecting animals, versus plant-based, we're thinking more in terms of health. And so plant-based means that you are cutting out those animal products, including meat products, dairy products. Plant-based for some can also be eliminating the use of oils, additional sugars, for some salt, depending on what your health needs are. But really, plant based, you're wanting to eat more of those whole, unprocessed foods. So a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, even. So those are the basis for it.
So, so if I understand, so the difference between plant-based is veganism is veganism. Veganism is more. It's not just cutting out animal products and food, but it's also cutting it out in terms of the types of clothes that you wear. So it's going beyond food, whereas your the plant-based lifestyle, or the plant-based diet, that you're talking about is just solely focused on food and health.
Right, exactly. Yeah, veganism. You have a lot of vegans who are more animal rights activists. They don't like even like makeup or shampoos that have been tested on animals and those things. Which I certainly care about some of those topics, but for what I do and what I'm talking about, it's more what's on your plate, and not so much what you're wearing or anything else.
All right. So let's talk about that. What's on the plate? So
Hmm.
when you say plant based, we're cutting out animal products. So what is maybe let's break it down by the meals of the day. So
Yeah.
let's talk about breakfast. So someone living
Okay.
a plant based, I guess lifestyle is the wrong word, more of a diet, um, who is on a plant based diet, what would they have for breakfast?
Yeah, so it can run the gamut. If you're out and about, pretty busy, a lot of times it's just like a oatmeal because you can, easily find like instant oatmeal almost anywhere you go nowadays. But it can be like oatmeal with some berries or nuts on it. It can be one thing I like is a tofu scramble, which is actually scrambled tofu, or it looks like eggs, but it's tofu. And then you can add, I like to add spinach to mine. You can add some spinach to it, or whatever vegetables that you like. You can have that with a slice of whole grain toast or, whatever you decide, or a side of fruit. If you also like, a bit more savory breakfast, grits. Like I said, I'm from the South, so we eat grits. Grits are just ground up corn. Typically, a lot in the South is what we do to the grits that make them so not healthy. But grits themselves are just corn. So you could, have grits. You can have hash browns. So if you like hash browns, you can do chopped potatoes. They're an easy way to get a lot of vegetables in that way. Now, even at restaurants, you can typically find them with like mushrooms and spinach, zucchini added to the potatoes, and it makes a good savory breakfast that way. Then for some people, if you just want to keep it easy, you can do a smoothie, just a fruit smoothie. Put some fruits, some spinach or kale in the blender, and just have that. And that can also be a good breakfast.
All right, there you go. All right, what about lunch?
Yeah. So lunch and dinner, is, depending on what you want. I always like to remind people that people who eat plant-based or vegan, we eat more than just salad. My friends always joke with me when we're going places. They're like, "Oh, they got a salad," and it's like, "Well, I'm hungry. I want more than just the iceberg on the menu." But it can be a salad if that's what you want. Typically, if you see a plant-based person though that's making a salad, it's gonna be a real salad. It's not gonna be your little side dish in the bowl. And so it's gonna, you could do a salad. Typically, if I do one, I'll put some brown rice in it. I'll add some beans to it. Sometimes I'll add like red onions, tomatoes. So it's sometimes sweet potatoes. So it's really a hearty salad because you want to get full. You're not doing this to like starve yourself, even though you're wanting to improve your health, but you still want to be full. So it can be a salad like that. You can do a wrap. Hummus is readily available and easily found in most places. You can get like a tortilla wrap, spread some hummus spread in it, add whatever other vegetables you want to it that way. You can do tacos. Tacos are easy, rice and beans in the taco. If you want to use some dairy free cheese to add to your taco, that's an option. There are also even plant-based alternative meat products that some people choose to consume. I do tell my patients who we're working with on like diabetes or like the trifecta of things, so diabetes, cholesterol, or blood pressure, we do limit some of those plant-based meat alternatives just because they tend to be higher in salt and oil, which can still contribute to some of those health conditions. But those things are available if a person may feel they need that while they're making that transition. Because, like I said before, a lot of it is how we think our food should look and how we think our meal should look. So if you're used to having your taco with the ground beef in it or the ground turkey in it, then it might all of a sudden not look right to you, to not have that in there. So you could choose one of those plant-based crumble alternatives to put in there. But you can also make some good non kind of meat alternatives with just like ground walnuts. There's some recipes for that, or even rice cauliflower. One of the things that I like to do is rice some cauliflower and put like some of the taco seasoning in it, and it gives it kind of a taco kind of a. I haven't eaten beef in over a decade, so but to me, it kind of gives it that taco meat kind of flavor to it by doing it that way. So just being creative with it. And then even you can keep it really simple and do something like rice. You can add some broccoli over it, add a sauce. I'm also big on doing bowl kind of meals to keep things simple. So that's typically some kind of grain under the bottom, whether it's rice or quinoa or barley, and then add in like some beans, and then add in like a cruciferous vegetable like a broccoli or a cauliflower, add in some spinach or some kale, and then add in a sauce on it. You can create a variety of meals even just by doing that. And they're pretty easy and quick and simple to make.
Wow, wow. So it's definitely a lot of options that are out there. So now,
Yeah.
what do you tell people that, um, well, I guess there's a myth that people who are on a plant-based diet, vegan, they have low energy, right? So what do you say about that myth? What do you say to people that, say that they don't have a lot of energy, they're tired all the time? What do you say to that?
Yeah. So typically I find that if people are low energy, it's one or two things. One, they are not either eating enough food, or two, they're eating the wrong types of foods. And the reason I say not enough, because when people, it kind of really goes back to that thing I was saying, like how people only think that if you're plant-based, all you're going to eat is an iceberg lettuce salad. Well, that's not going to be enough to fill you up, and you're likely going to be hungry. You're likely going to then be sluggish and fatigued if that's what you're trying to make the predominance of your meal consist of. Because you still, want to make sure you're eating a sustainable amount of food that's going to fill you up, and kind of food is energy. Especially, food with carbohydrates, we use that as fuel and as energy. And so it's kind of like your car. If you're not putting enough gas in that tank, it's not going to take you to where you need to go. And that's the same way with how you eat. If you're not getting enough, then you are going to feel sluggish and fatigued. And then the other thing about the types of food, if you're eating a bunch of stuff that, maybe a bunch of processed foods, and not eating enough variety in terms of color, we should eat the rainbow. So having those colorful foods to make sure that you're getting enough vitamins and minerals and nutrients, then that can also too be making a difference and making a person feel more sluggish or fatigued.
So it's when I guess what you're saying is when people go on, these types of diets, they tend to eat very little, and you're counteracting that. You're saying no, you should actually be eating more,
Mhm.
because you're getting the energy, and your energy is coming from these, the food. So it's not actually eating less, it's actually eating more.
Exactly. Yeah. Like when you kind of maybe growing up and used to seeing that kind of meat and two sides plate, it would usually be like the meat part is the big part, and then the little side things are these little cups of food. But you got to rethink that when you're eating plant based, then you aren't going to want to stick to that little cup of food. You're probably still going to be hungry. So then, make that bigger part of the plate something more hearty. Put, a big serving of beans, or serving of brown rice or quinoa, something that's just really gonna fill you up, so that you're not hungry and sluggish and fatigued.
Mm. So people who so for someone who needs a lot of energy in their profession, right? Someone
Mhm.
who's in the military, for example, or someone doing construction, or someone, even a daycare worker who has to deal with all them kids, right?
Yeah.
So what would you recommend for someone who, someone in sports,
Mhm.
what do you recommend, what kind of foods do you recommend for someone like that in a
Yeah.
plant-based diet?
Yeah, that's a good question. So first, of course, it's going to depend on what your health needs are. So if you have any health conditions or things of that nature, you definitely want to talk to your doctor and work that out. But if you don't have any health conditions, then you're just, a person who does have a really active kind of profession or lifestyle. I'm an endurance athlete myself. I've completed a number of marathons and triathlons, and I've also worked with other endurance athletes. And so you do have a higher caloric need than other individuals. And so you do want to add more foods that have a higher, what we call it, caloric density, meaning those foods are going to be a bit high calorie, even though they're plant-based foods. So that's things like avocado or nut butters like peanut butter or almond butter, adding those things to your meal. So for instance, we talked about how you may start your day with a bowl of oatmeal. Well, if you know you have one of those jobs where you're going to be moving a lot and burning a lot of calories off while you're working, like a construction worker, or like I say, even a daycare worker that may be running around behind kids a lot, and you probably want to add a spoonful of peanut butter to your oatmeal, just to make it even more a little bit hearty, give it a little bit more calorie boost, something that's not going to burn off through your system quite as quickly, to keep you fuller longer and keep you energized, to go about your day longer. And then, when you're eating that lunch or dinner, you probably want to add some other kind of healthy fats or some more caloric dense type foods to your meal. You probably want to add a few extra snacks, like you can, add a couple of apples um, or bananas or something too in your lunchbox, just so that you have some extra calories to keep you full.
All right. We have some praise here.
Yeah,
Plant-based is the best.
it
Awesome.
really is.
Thank thank you for your comment. All right. And good info. You have some more support. Very good.
Thank
Very
you. Thank
good.
you, Alexis.
So I'll think of my next question now. So what are some other misconceptions or myths that actually no, before I get into that, I think you brought up a good point that, you can be vegan but still eat unhealthy, right? Because
Mhm.
you have the chips, you have the Oreos, you have those sugary snacks that are technically, vegan, right? So is there can you still eat unhealthy on a plant-based diet?
You can, if especially if you are eating even a lot of those foods that are unprocessed, for instance, like a peanut butter, especially if you're buying a natural peanut butter, it's just peanuts that have been ground up and nothing else added to it, or an avocado. But those foods are higher in calories and higher in fat. So if you're not, actively burning that off, if you're not keeping an active lifestyle where you're working out or, being mindful of that, then you can still gain weight. And the same with kind of anything we eat. There's a balance that we should eat healthfully, but we also should be active and moving, and keeping that other aspect into place. And then the other thing, like I talked about with a lot of those more processed plant-based foods, like the meat alternatives and even the dairy-free cheese alternatives, those things tend to be high in fat and sodium, and a lot of oils and things that are added to those. And so those can, put you more on an unhealthy side of in terms of weight gain and in terms of other health conditions too, that way.
Yeah, yeah. Um, we got another from our friend Alexis. I have a friend who is quote unquote vegan, but is very overweight. He eats a lot of sweets and breads. Right. So
Yeah.
there's the misconception of, yeah,
Mhm.
these it's technically vegan, but it's high in
Right.
sugar and high in salt.
Exactly. Hmm.
So I also want to emphasize that it should be a balanced diet, right? So, I mean, could I just eat a bowl of avocado and call that a meal?
Nope, I wouldn't advise that because you're gonna still be missing a lot of other helpful nutrients in your diet if you just do one thing, which is why I like to say, eat the rainbow. So if you think about a rainbow, it's multi-colors. And so, if you're eating any just one color of anything, then that means you're gonna be missing some other pertinent nutrients that you need. So no, you definitely don't want to just stick to one thing.
Right. So you want to have, because you need the protein and the carbs. So
Hmm.
you have your beans over here. You have your avocado over here. So you have to, you got to have the whole gambit.
Right, exactly. Yep, you still want to keep, having a healthy plate in mind, and not just a single food kind of deal.
Mm. All right. All right. All right. So are you? So now should we just? So actually, let's. How does a plant-based diet improve us health-wise? What is it doing to the body? Let's get into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So a number of ways. So I'll give you, the example, even just with a lot of the folks that I see with high blood pressure, prediabetes, diabetes, high cholesterol. So by eating plant-based, it helps to reverse those things. For one, when we eat animal-based foods, just like us, we're mammals, like animals are mammals. And so we make a certain amount of cholesterol anyway in our bodies. But when we eat those animal based foods, those animals have also made cholesterol. That's what tends to raise our cholesterol even more, because we're consuming excess cholesterol and our bodies have already made the appropriate amount that we need to maintain our health. And so that's one way by, cutting that out, that helps to lower our cholesterol because we're not now consuming that excess cholesterol. And then the other part about animal products that are that the fat content and the saturated fat content in those products tend to make us store fat. And in turn, that tends to raise our blood sugars because our sugar doesn't have anywhere to go from all of that stored up fat. Um, and so by cutting that down, that's the way plants help us. Plants also, plant-based foods like those unprocessed whole grains release sugars into our system much more slowly than the alternative foods do. And therefore, in terms, it helps to improve the way our bodies react to when it interacts with sugars in our body, and we're able to process that better. And then even beyond that, plants have natural antioxidants. They are natural anti-inflammatories versus meat and oils, which tend to be inflammatory producing type of foods. And so plants can counteract those things too, which in turn can help things like people who have arthritis, and can help lower our blood pressures from that aspect, from the inflammatory process there. And even plant-based diets have been shown to be even helpful in certain forms of cancer because of the antioxidant properties there.
Right. So like plants are medicinal in a way,
Mhm.
in that they have those this properties of plants that can improve the way our body works. And eating
Right.
more of that um will be helpful to us, and then we don't have to rely so much on even traditional pharmaceutical medication,
Right.
medicine.
Mhm.
So now, can you have a plant-based diet and still should you still exercise on a plant-based diet, or should is a diet sufficient?
You should certainly still exercise. And exercise helps us in a number of ways. So, exercise is great for our mood and our mental health. We've come through COVID and we've seen a lot of folks with a lot of mental health challenges, and exercise is a natural way that you can boost those happy hormones in your brain and you can boost your mood. I'm a big proponent of outdoor exercise because having that sunlight and fresh air can further help with that. Exercise also is a natural way to lower our blood sugar. Exercise is a natural way to lower our blood pressure, help our blood flow more freely through those blood vessels in our body. So you should certainly still exercise, even if you are plant-based. Exercise will still be very helpful and give you additional health benefits.
Ah. So in terms of the number of meals, is it still the 3 meals a day? Because I feel like on a plant-based diet, you might actually be eating like 4 or 5 meals a day, because it's
It's
less.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's going to depend on a couple of things. If you have any health conditions and what your caloric needs are. and what your day looks like. If you're somebody like we talked about, those people who may be more busy professionals, then they may tend to need like a fourth meal, something, kind of in between, especially depending on if they leave really early. I know some people who work in construction, they may leave really, really early for work, but then may not have lunch until, later in the afternoon. So they may need an additional meal in between that time. And so, yeah, it's one of those things really depending on, what your personal needs are, but you may find yourself that you may need an additional meal or have some snacks on hand too.
And what's an ideal snack? What's a good snack on a plant-based diet?
Yeah, so even still, those whole unprocessed foods are going to be best. So things like carrot sticks, most places you can easily find carrot sticks nowadays. Celery sticks, fruit. I like to keep apples and bananas on hand. Those are quick and easy to grab. Oranges, even. Those little packs of nuts that they sell now, those little 100-calorie packs of nuts. Those are good little snacks to keep on hand. Bars, I like Lara bars. Lara bars are actually made with dates and nuts in them. They don't tend to have any added sugar in most of the varieties of them. So things like that are definitely good snacks. And then if you are the type of person that likes a real food snack, then pack you an extra wrap or a sandwich, even if you like a real food snack.
So you also, and just to be clear, a plant-based diet also means no fish.
Right. Yep, exactly. That falls more under the pescatarian. Like we talked about, all the different labels. Pescatarian is one that will tend to include fish.
Mm. So now another challenge, for someone living well on this kind of diet is eating out, right? Eating at a restaurant. So what do you say to that?
Yeah, one of the big things you will want to do is plan ahead. So if you got a family gathering or going out with friends or what have you, maybe look ahead at the menu and see what's on the menu. One of the things I like to do when I look at a menu, even if it doesn't have anything that's particularly labeled vegan or plant-based, I'll just look to see what vegetables are there. So if you see like they got a steak on the menu, but it includes a side of broccoli, then that tells me, oh, you got some broccoli in the kitchen, kind of thing. So, I'll just look even for that to see what's there. And then that way I know what types of things I may be able to order. My husband always jokes that I always create stuff that's probably not on the menu. When I go out, and you can, most of the time, especially if it's a restaurant with the chef, a lot of times I found that chefs like when a person comes in and requests something unique like a plant-based meal because that gives them their time to shine too and to do something creative. So a lot of times they're happy to give you something of that nature. But if you just see they've got different aspects on the menu, then you can request something like, oh, I see you've got a potato. Can I get a potato with some broccoli? Maybe an extra salad, or oh, I see you've got some black beans here on the menu. I do typically ask, oh, are your beans made with meat in them, or how things are cooked? Because some places, especially here in the South, I'm in Tennessee, some places tend to will cook vegetables and automatically throw the ham or the bacon in them. So you do have to be careful and ask those kind of questions when you go out.
And you also talked about oils. What's the problem with oils?
Yeah, so if you do have a health condition like high cholesterol or high blood pressure, you do want to stay away from oils because oils promote inflammation. And in those conditions, that can still, even if it's plant-based oil, I have a lot of people say, well, what about olive oil? Olive oil is supposed to be healthy. Well, I say eat the olives, but leave the olive oil alone because the oil is more processed and it's still gonna, kind of promote more of that inflammatory process in the system.
Oh, all right. And then what about bread? So we talked about, or like carby stuff. So we talked about potatoes. Potatoes are good. So are white potatoes are good, or is just the sweet potato? Doesn't matter the potato.
Yeah, potatoes are good. Typically, what the problem that comes into the potato is what we as people do to the potatoes. Here in America, when we get a potato, the potato is really just the carrier for all of the bacon bits and the cheese and the butter and the sour cream that we might throw on the potato. But if we leave all of those things off of the potato. The potato itself is actually a good food, especially the skin on the potato is high in fiber. Potato is going to be filling. You can put a lot of, like beans, you can put broccoli on your potato. You can put spices on your potato to make it more seasoned and flavorful. Sweet potatoes are also great. So carbs are fine. It's just typically what we do to those carbs. And then the other thing about it, for instance, if you do have diabetes or pre-diabetes, you definitely want to make sure that you're not consuming though more of those processed carbs. So for instance, bread is a processed carbohydrate because of the way that it's made. They ground up all of the grains into this flour that sipped it down and put all this other stuff together. So it's a processed carbohydrate. So you want to limit those because those will tend to raise your blood sugar. But unprocessed carbohydrates, things that are like quinoa, your brown rice, barley, farro, those things that you can beans are carbohydrates, even carrots and apples. Those things are fine to eat.
So just no, so potatoes, grains are fine, just no bread.
Well, I won't say no bread, but you definitely want to limit bread because it is going to be a very highly processed carbohydrate.
So even like the whole wheat bread or the
That's what
rye
I was
bread.
gonna say. Yeah, there are some breads. I won't say whole wheat though, because whole wheat is still a processed one. They just use a whole wheat flour and still do the same process. But there are some breads. Ezekiel bread is one brand where they're made from sprouted grains, which is like almost like the grain right out of the ground kind of thing. It's gonna look and taste different. So, just be aware because it's not, a highly processed kind of bread. But yeah, there are some, bread makers that make some that are less processed.
So what about the gluten-free stuff? Is that considered plant-based?
Yeah, that's a good question because it comes again to those labels like we talked about. People might see a food labeled vegan and they say, "Oh, I need a bunch of this because it's vegan. It means it's healthy." Kind of same thing with gluten free. Gluten free does not equate to health either. And not all of us need gluten free. If you don't have a gluten allergy or gluten intolerance, that something that you talk to your doctor about, then you may not even need to go gluten free. But if you do have one of those conditions and you need to be gluten free does also not equal plant based. But there are some gluten free products that are out there that are plant based, but you really have to be a label reader in terms of those. But same with gluten free. You can find gluten free stuff that's high in sugar and high in oils and fat, and so it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to automatically be healthy.
Yeah, yeah. So now another thing with with these kinds of diets is um kind of like going to a friend's birthday party, for example, right? So, I mean, we talked about going out to a restaurant. I mean, at least that you can take things out and put things in. But going to a friend's birthday party, right? What do you do there?
Yeah.
Or you're going to your sister for Thanksgiving, right? So, there's not the appearance, but there's the idea of how people will treat you and look at you, and so what do you say to that?
Yeah, and sometimes people will, think you are different or weird or whatever. But we all are unique individuals. So to that I say, be you, do you. But if you are going to, like a family event or something, a cookout or something, then there are a couple of things. One, you can just eat before you go, which I'm a big proponent of doing that. Just eat before I go, and then that way I'm not bothered with it. Or if you know that you do want to eat there with everybody else, you can bring a dish. You can offer to say, hey, I'm going to bring a couple of things to share with the group. Sometimes what I'll do is there's a slaw that I like to make that has like an Asian kind of miso dressing with it that I'll take to some functions, and people, meat eaters and non-meat eaters alike, tend to like it. So you can, offer to bring something of that nature to the event. If it's a big family meal, like a Thanksgiving or a Christmas meal, just ask them to simply, whatever the vegetables are that they're cooking, if they can just not cook them with the meat in them. For most people, that's a easy fix. I will say even my family now, they've gotten accustomed to just cooking, the vegetables without the meat in them that way, because they know that's how I'm going to want to eat them. Or if they still want theirs cooked the more traditional way, they'll cook a smaller, thing just for me. Or you can, just bring your own. Or there are even restaurants now here where I am. We have vegan and plant-based restaurants where they do catering. So you can even order, a tray of something that you want to take with you to that event and do it that way.
All right. So bring your own dish, right? Eat before you
Mhm.
go, right? And especially if your family friends know who you are, right? They'll
Yeah.
probably just, oh, we'll just, so and so doesn't eat this. We'll just,
Yeah.
we'll make a separate dish for her. So, so there are ways around it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
There's so much that goes into, these types of diets. Um, so now what was my other I lost my train of thought. But so so we were talking before about eating the rainbow, right? So even we were talking about vegetables. So it's not just eating a bowl of vegetables as a
Right.
meal, right? So
Right.
just having vegetables with beans, or
Mhm.
um throwing some quinoa in there, right? So definitely get the you want to get all sides, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I feel like, especially when people first go plant-based, they're like, well, I need a recipe. We kind of almost overthink it. Like, unless there's like a recipe with like 20 steps, as to what to do, but you really don't have to do all of that. You can just keep it simple. You probably are, most of us probably already have a bunch of plants in our kitchen that we just haven't thought of it that way, of just creating a meal of just that and leaving out the bacon or the pork chop or whatever it is, kind of thing with it. Just last night I ate a bowl of noodles that I made with some spinach. I roasted some spinach in it, and I used the plant-based Alfredo sauce, which is made from like cashews and some spices with it, and that was dinner. So it really doesn't have to be that complicated. Just, just put some stuff together. What you like to eat?
And we also talked about the plant-based alternatives, right? Because there's like
Hmm.
tofurkey, and
Yeah.
um
There's
there
Impossible Burgers, Beyond Burgers. Those have had kind of, they've been big in mainstream media here recently. You can even find those at a lot of fast food restaurants now, where you can get those.
and you're
Yeah.
saying those are no good either.
Well, I don't want people to be like, well, I can't eat anything. So, it depends on what your situation is. I won't say, I mean, I eat one of those burgers every now and again. Should you eat them daily? No. Should you eat any burger daily? No. You know, and especially if you've got, one of these health conditions and you're really trying to improve your health, then you do want to steer clear of those most of the time, because they will be higher in fat and higher in saturated fat, because they do contain oils and sodium in them. But with that being said, if you're out and about and you're trying to choose whether I should have the Whopper or the Big Mac versus the Impossible, then yeah, get the Impossible. That's going to be a much better alternative for you than those alternatives will be.
All right. And of course, eat those in moderation as well,
Right.
because they
Yeah.
probably cook it on the same grill.
Yeah. That
So,
too. Yep.
as the meat stuff. So,
Yep.
you definitely want to eat that in moderation.
Yeah.
All right. So it's not, so I guess the idea is like, oh, having a plant-based diet, I can just eat a super duper large plate, right? You still have to eat in moderation.
Right, exactly. You still want to think in moderation and eat in moderation, but you don't want to, if you're eating that salad, you don't want to limit yourself to think, oh, I can only have this little side salad that I'm used to seeing, because you're not going to be full from that. bulk that salad up. I always joke, there are no diabetic studies to say that too much spinach causes diabetes. So, add it up, throw it in there, bulk that salad up, and eat it.
Right. So you don't want to eat
Yeah.
too little, right? But you
Right.
also don't want to eat too much, right? So
Right.
you got to get that middle ground in there.
Hmm.
All right. Well, this has been very informative. Thank you so much, Dr. Toombs-Withers.
Thank you
Um,
for having me.
so I like to ask my guests to share any words of wisdom with our audience as we start to wind things down. So now, are there any words of wisdom that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so one of my favorite quotes is "Let food be thy medicine," and really, I'll just leave your audience with that. So, think about what you put on your plate, and think about if those foods are going to be more healthful to you or more harmful to you, and let that be your guide.
Oh, wait, I just had another thought.
Yeah.
What about women who are pregnant? Can they have a
Mm,
plant-based diet?
they sure can. They can. Yep, you can certainly have a healthy pregnancy, a healthy baby on a plant-based diet.
So what kind of foods would they eat? Pretty much the same
Same
thing.
foods, yeah, yeah, really the same thing that everyone else eats. They may need a bit more because when you're pregnant, you do tend to need a bit more calories in your system. But yeah, those a plant-based diet is actually great when you're pregnant because it's going to help you to stay a healthy weight. For a lot of people, they tend to almost gain too much weight when pregnant. So a plant-based diet can be helpful in managing that side of things too. So yeah. Oh,
All right, wonderful. All right, well, Dr. Toombs Withers, thank you so much for this wonderful information. It's very informative.
thank
All right,
you.
so let me get up your banner. It is now time for your promotion. All right, so Dr. Shayla Toombs Withers, you could find her all over the place, you guys. You can find her online. Her website is www.eohcoaching.com. She's also on Facebook and Instagram with the handle Essence of Health Wellness Clinic. She's also on TikTok. There's a lot of letters. It's Doctor, and there's a period. TW at EOHWC. Make sure you get all them letters. She's on LinkedIn as Shayla TW, and she is on YouTube with the handle EOHWC video. All right, speaking of video, I want to play that. But let me just get through this. Yeah, so make sure you get all the information. So get in touch with Dr. Toombs Withers. All of the information is at the bottom of the screen if you're watching this on video. If you're listening to this episode on a podcast, all of this information will be in the description. So if you need advice on eating a plant-based diet, if you have questions, maybe you want to confirm some misconceptions that you heard about it, reach out to Dr. Toombs Withers. All the information is on the screen right now or in the description, depending on how you're taking in this episode. But I will give you the website again. It is www.eohcoaching.com. So please reach out to her. And she also has a promo. She has an ebook out right now. It's a free ebook called Healthy Tips for a Healthy Lifestyle. The link is on your screen. So, of course, it'll be in the description, you guys. Don't worry about that. So, you need some free tips. Um, you know, uh, Go get the ebook, you guys. It is a free gift, and she is giving that to you right now. So make sure you go get that ebook. And she has a podcast, of course. It is called the Essence of Health Tea Time Podcast. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts. So if it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or Deezer or all them other ones, you guys, Amazon Music, check it out. The podcast is there at your favorite station. It is called Essence of Health Tea Time Podcast. So that is Dr. Toombs Withers podcast. I encourage you to find that podcast and subscribe. Um, Dr. Toombs Withers, is there anything else you want to promote or share, or is there anything else you want to let our audience know at this time?
Yeah, thank you. I am hosting a virtual masterclass event on April 30th. It'll be held online. It's called What Your Doctor Didn't Tell You About Reversing the Health Crisis Trifecta. So, if you are indeed one of those individuals who are challenged by high blood pressure, prediabetes, diabetes, or high cholesterol, then this is definitely the event for you. I'll be sharing those secret tips to help you to reverse those conditions. You can definitely learn more on my website for that masterclass event. Thank you.
Awesome. There you go. So go to that masterclass event, you guys. The information is on her website, which I will give one more time: www.eohcoaching.com. All right. So there is a video that I wanted to play. It's one of the shorts on her YouTube channel. So give me 1 second as I am going to pull it up right now. And let's play this short real quick.
Friends, did Google tell you to take a tablespoon?
Sorry, I'm just gonna restart this.
Hey, friends, did Google tell you to take a tablespoon of oil every day? Did Google tell you to eat your body weight in grams of protein every day? Did Google tell you to take this handful of magic vitamins every day? Did Google tell you to do these 3 easy workouts every day for a miraculous result? Well, stop listening to the Google expert. You can have an actual expert in health, wellness, obesity, and nutrition right at your fingertips when you join the Essence of Health. I'd love to work with you and help you demystify all of the fads and poor advice out there. Go to eohcoaching.com and schedule your free personalized strategy session with me today. You are in charge of your health. The essence of health is in you. Let me show you the way. Hey, friend.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right. Oh, we didn't even talk about vitamins. What are your? Let me make sure I get this in. What are your thoughts on vitamins?
Yeah, so some of them are needed, especially if you're going plant-based. It is recommended that you take a B12 supplement. That's one of the things that can tend to be low in those on a plant-based diet because what typically happens is those who consume meat, they get B12 from the animals because of some of the waste and other products from the animals that has that B12 in it. So really that's the only, vitamin that you may need. But there are some other vitamins that may be necessary, but typically if you're eating that rainbow, you're going to get the majority of the vitamins and nutrients that you need.
So you wouldn't recommend like a multivitamin?
Yeah, I do recommend a multivitamin every day. But, there are some people where, you may hear, oh, I need to take this supplement or that supplement, or I'm going to go take, what I tend to see in my office is people that'll say, oh, I picked the highest vitamin D that was on the shelf and I'm going to take that every day. And then when I check their levels, they're actually at a toxic level and they're having some health problems from that. So don't do that. You definitely want to talk to your doctor about what you should be taking, but a multivitamin is typically going to be safe.
All right, beautiful. All right, well, Dr. Toombs-Withers, thank you again for coming on Hot Topics.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to place you backstage now. And it is just you and me, guys. All right, let me get my information up here. All right, you guys. So we have reached the conclusion of yet another episode of Hot Topics. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys took a lot from this episode, and I hope you guys learned a lot as well. I sure did, and maybe I need to put some of this into practice, right? I don't necessarily have the best diet. Um, but yes, so before I get into my contact information, I want to remind you guys to leave your feedback about this episode today. What are your thoughts about this episode? Leave a comment in the comment section below or in the comment thread. Let me know your thoughts about this episode, whether you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook. I see LinkedIn popped up here, right? Leave a comment in the comment section or in the comment thread. Let me know your thoughts about this episode. Did you learn something? Did you not learn something? Any compliments, complaints, whatever it is, leave your thoughts in the comment section or in the comment thread. It'll be very helpful to myself. If you are listening to this on a podcast, depending on the station, you could also leave a comment in the comment section. So do that as well. I also encourage you to drop a rating, right? So please rate our episode, rate our podcast. Every little bit helps us. So give us a rating. Let us know your thoughts about the podcast, about this episode. Your feedback definitely helps us. So I will appreciate your feedback. Much, much appreciated. Now, as for my contact information, I'm just reminding you guys once again, Hot Topics is a production of my company, A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you are looking for a tutor, whether for yourself or for your child, maybe your child is falling behind in school, maybe they're missing classes, skipping classes, not doing their homework, they have poor time management skills. Our tutors heard it all. I heard it all. I feel like I've seen it all, right? They may need some extra prep, an extra push, right? Whatever it is, reach out to us. Our website is www.astepAheadTutoringServices.com. We do one-on-one tutoring, we do test prep, college counseling, editing and proofreading. We also have a variety of virtual workshops. So whatever your fancy, reach out to us. We can help you. The website again is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. You could also find us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, where else? WhatsApp, Eventbrite, and there's another that I'm losing, and Twitter, right? So find us on our social media pages, you guys. And don't forget to subscribe and follow us as well. And once again, I'm going to give that website www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. You could also email us at success@astepaheadtutoringservices.com. You could also call or text us. I strongly prefer text, but the number is 347-762-2838. So I'm on the other end of the line, so I encourage you to reach out to us and you will speak to me, Gabrielle. So if you're looking for that tutoring, whether for yourself or for your child, reach out to us today. All right, you guys, and that is it. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to you joining me at the next episode. Thank you guys again. And now I am signing off. Bye, guys.